There's often been a lot of debate about having high school seniors take a civics test. Well, a group of 5 Nebraska senators want to require all state lawmakers to take a civics test after taking office. The test would look similar to the naturalization test immigrants take before becoming U.S. citizens. Under LB 1066, all Nebraska lawmakers would have to take the test, but don't have to pass. The state would post the results on the legislature's website. Any senator who failed the test would have the option to attend a civics seminar.
Investigators say in Ohio,